Hey everybody, this is Josh Peak, and we are live with another OKUSA video and an interview. And tonight we have Hardell Moore with us, which I'm excited about. I've been wanting to do this for a while. So, Hardell, I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Josh. Pleasure to be here, my man.
Yeah, well, you just got out of practice. How'd that go?
It was good. We have these things called back to school practices. Obviously, I know some folks are in school, some are out of school, kind of depending on where you're at and their schedule, so on and so forth. But, anywhere from about 25, 30 kids in there on any given day, just keeping them active, keeping them busy the best way we can, doing everything that we need to do to get them on the mat. And, sometimes let the parents get them on the mat, get some energy out as well. But, one of the main things is right now to keep them active, also to keep that mental part sharp as well, because, we're all kind of swimming through these same waters right now. But it was a good day today.
Well, good. Let's just go right into it and start from the beginning. So how did you get started in wrestling? I know your whole family is a wrestling family. So how did you get started?
Yeah, so I was 4 years old when I got started. I have two older brothers, Harvey Moore and Howard Moore. Howard was a four-time All-American at UCO and a two-time national champ. My oldest brother, Harvey, did not wrestle. My dad didn't either. My dad was a basketball player, believe it or not. So he told himself if he did have boys, that he would allow them to wrestle. And
Cool.
So Howard came home with a flyer, and we were living in Coweta at the time. Coach Ron McGill and Johnny Bolin were our youth Little League coaches. And at that time, I was about 4 years old. Run around the room, stretch with them, and then when they'd start practice, I'd go sit down and watch. Well, one day, Coach McGill asked my dad, Ernest, does he want to get out there? And I said, sure. Well, we went to a tournament, and at 4 years old, at that time, they had like a lock-in, right? So me and my mom and dad were walking back to the car, and I asked where Howard was, and they said, well, he's staying in the gym, and we'll see him in the morning. Well, at 4 years old, I thought that was pretty cool. And one thing led to another, and there you have it. It's all been a blast since then.
Yeah. So was it at Coweta? Is that where you got started then?
Yeah, it's Coweta High School, yeah. Or Coweta Elementary, Coweta Youth, yeah, Coweta.
I'll never forget the first time I saw you, and we were you guys used to, from Collinsville, we're from Collinsville, so you guys used to scrimmage us in football every year. And I'll never forget a wrestler, a good friend of mine, when I was just getting started, he sat next to me and he goes, I said, how you think the game's going to go tonight, scrimmage? He goes, well, there's a guy named Hardell Moore from Coweta, and you're playing like strong safety or kind of in the middle there, and lit our dudes up, and he goes, that's Hardell Moore. Oh my gosh. He goes, wait till you see him wrestle. I was like, so what was the first experience I got to see you wrestle or play football, and then obviously wrestle? So from youth into junior high and then into high school, kind of take us there a little bit.
Yeah, so through youth, I had my dad was my coach, and he'd watch film and different things like that. And then junior high, Coach Howard was my coach, and then I get to high school, and it's Coach Jerry Meek as well, and then also Coach Tim Johnson and Harold Meek. Coach Tim Johnson was there. He was the head coach my last year, and Jerry and Harold were my coaches up through that era. And we progressed. We had a tough team. We finished second in state as juniors our junior year, and then going into our senior year, we ended up winning it. I think we had four in the finals. It was Chris Sample, Stephen Plunk, myself, and Brian Edwards. And I think we were 3A state, but 4A dual state. And matter of fact, I know you had Rod on here last week.
Yep.
And Tulsa Webster beat us in the finals for dual state. And then for regionals and state, we were 3A that year. And Stephen Plunk got second, got beat by Stephen Schmidt. Chris Sample won, I won, and Brian Edwards won, along with some other placers. So, yeah, we ended up getting a chance to take home the team title in 93. Good year for us, man. Real good year.
Yeah, I remember Chris Sample.
And a lot of those guys with Stephen, Chris, Derek Hogan, me, Brian, Billy Dishman, a lot of those guys that came through Bo Clegg, like we all started in the Little League together. So it was fun to see that transition from youth to junior high into high school.
Yeah, and I was wanting to go into your college, but it reminds me that now that we're talking, how important, before I forget about it, how important do you think these small towns in Oklahoma, I was talking to Schmidt about that as well, that they have Tuttle, and then back in the day you had Sperry and Collinsville and all these little towns, but they had these awesome feeder programs. How important do you think that is in terms of?
It's extremely important, right? Because that is your future.
Mm-hmm.
That is your future. And I still remember when I was younger. Granted, Howard wrestled for the high school, but I would see Coach Meek all the time, whether he was coming to a practice just to stick his head in the room to say hello, because eventually we were going to be up there. And I think it's extremely important because, you see what, the Perrys have done, what the Tuttles have done, what the Broken Arrows have done, and there's some more programs, feeder programs coming through. I remember, getting a chance to coach the Edmond Generals for as long as I did. And a lot of those guys end up winning the state title for Edmond North, back in the day. But the cool thing is also, like, we also know some of those kids won't be together forever. Like, they go to different high schools, and that's cool as well. But the feeder program is important because it just helps the team and it helps the whole state of Oklahoma as we continue to grow and continue to be a hotbed for these college coaches to come in here and look at these young men and young women now, for that matter.
Oh, yeah. So then from high school, you had a successful high school career. And yeah, college is looking, a lot of them looking at you. So how was it the decision was made on Oklahoma State? Obviously they have a huge tradition, but how was that process?
Yeah, me and my dad would go up to O State and watch the matches, watch the duels back in the day. We didn't go all the time, but when we did, get a chance to watch John and Kenny and Coach Perry and some of those guys, and just seeing them on the posters and the guys doing what they were doing. So it basically boiled down between, it was O State, OU, and Iowa State were my choices. And my mom really liked John when he came. And we kind of had a relationship already with Kenny Monday as well because, speaking of just the wrestling world, Tulsa Webster, kind of like what Rod was touching on last week, we were with the legend Coach Jones, the people that he brought in and had the pleasure to coach with, like the Landrums, the Kennys, the Kendall Cross, he brought John in. So we got to see those guys at a young age. And then when John became head coach at OSU, and I went on a recruiting trip there at that point in time, and I felt comfortable, wasn't far from home. I could have hopped in I had a spot in the starting lineup, granted redshirting, obviously, because Pat was getting ready to become the first 4-time national champ. So, but it was a great fit for me. Like I said, my mom really liked John. My dad liked John. We had a good connection with Coach Perry, and, one thing led to another. And, it was one of the best decisions I made, the most tradition-rich wrestling program around, for sure.
Yeah. Well, my brothers and I used to watch you wrestle, obviously, at Oklahoma State. You always come out jumping, and, man, we were jacked. Man, we were ready to watch you go.
Yeah, so, a story on that, like, people ask me, Hardell, where did you get that from? So some of the folks listening right now, Kevin Randleman. If you don't know who Kevin Randleman was a beast for Ohio State back in the day. I think the dude was 2-time national champ, 4-time final, like, from Ohio somewhere is where he was from, but wrestled at Ohio State, had a good MMA career, and bless his soul, I know he's passed on since then. But when I was a junior in high school, me, Coach Johnson, and my dad and one of Coach Johnson's friends went to Ames, Iowa to watch NCAAs. And from round 1 all the way to the finals, Randleman would jump. He jumped 4 times though. And then the longer the tournament went, so in the quarters and semis, like, the crowd start counting 1, 2. And I'm like, man, that is cool. So I stole it. And then I brought it back to Coweta. Now, in Coweta, I only jumped twice, right, before I wrestled. Got to college, I think I started jumping twice, and then I just cut it off to 1 jump and just called it the day. But, it kind of got the crowd into it. It got me into it. That was one of my little signature things, kind of make me stick out a little bit more. And I had fun with it, I remember Don Blasingame used to say, "Jumping Hardell Mold."
He did, yeah. I remember that. I remember that we'd watch. I was like, "Oh man, it would get the crowd jacked. Yeah. We're ready to go, and you're going to wrestle good every time." And then one thing I do remember about your college career. So 97 was when I graduated. So we went to Cedar Falls. That was your senior year, I think, at OSU. Whenever there was like Joe Williams, you, there's like 4 hammers in the semifinals that year. When
so that was actually my junior. I think that was my junior year. So it was I wrestled. I think I wrestled. It was Joe and I in the semis.
Was Ernest Binion?
Ernest Binion was that the finals or Ernest Binion? No, because Ernest got beaten the semis as well. Me and Ernest wrestled in the console finals for third and fourth, and he ended up beating. And we wrestled earlier that year in like the St. Louis, Missouri Open, and went overtime. And every time I never did beat Joe, I never did beat Ernest. It was always a 1 or 2 point match, and if you slipped and made a mistake against them dudes, it was lights out, man. But yeah, Joe and I were in the finals on one side. Ernest and Tony Roby from Edinburgh, was in the final. We're in the semifinals on the other side, and that was my junior year.
That was a tough bracket, man.
Yeah, that was that was an extremely tough bracket. And even Byron Tucker was in that bracket as well. Like there was some high level dudes in that bracket, man. It was good fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, and down at 26, it was tough at every weight. That year it was fun to watch. If there was any NCAAs that was good to go watch, that was the one. It was it was good stuff. Yeah. So how did your whole college career go?
As I sit, and I think a lot of our college athletes, regardless of what sport, but when you get a chance to sit back and reflect a little bit more, you appreciate it more. I think during the time, you're always saying I could have did better. And I still believe that, right? There's always some areas that you want to improve on, but that's just the competitor in us. But when you get a chance to sit back and reflect and you've kind of been away from it for a little while, as far as the competitive part, you kind of sit back and realize, you know what? I did pretty daggone good. I'm proud of my accomplishments, and where I did not succeed or achieve my goal, I'll learn something from that and pass it on to the next generation that's coming up. And a lot of the things that I've been through, whether it was youth, junior high, high school, and college, I try to pass that on to these young men and women that we're coaching now. And it was a good college career. I can't complain. I had some nice accolades. I had some nice accomplishments. But what I really got out of it was a lot of learning lessons, but also the bonding that I have with a lot of my college teammates now. Graduating from 98 to now, that Okie State family is extremely tight. And just people in general, wrestlers in general. So it was a good college career. I'm humble about it, and I just keep my head down and keep going to work.
Did you wrestle any after college? Did you go and wrestle any events after that?
I did a little bit. They had the Sunkiss Open back in Phoenix, Arizona back then. And at that point in the time, I was really kind of the only one still wrestling. Branch didn't wrestle much freestyle. I think Pat was pretty much done competing at that point in time. So I traveled a little bit, but then it finally got to the point where I was like, you know what, I got to start making a living.
Yep.
So I grad assisted that 1 year and had like a part-time job in Oklahoma City, and, sat down with Coach, and he's like, Hardell, do what you need to do. And that's one thing that I'm grateful for him. He's been a solid mentor to me, him, Coach Perry, and just the relationships that we have now. It's awesome because, Coach didn't have to worry about me at all, right? I was more scared of Ernest Moore and Margaret Moore than I was John W. But, that kept me out of trouble, trust me. Kept me out of trouble.
We're getting a lot of comments, so good comments here.
I see one from my buddy Damon Smith out there in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Damon was actually my roommate in college. What's up, Damon?
Cool. And then we got Christina here.
Oh, Miss Young, how you doing, Christina? Congrats to Carter once again. Great kid, going to Northwestern, doing big things.
That's awesome, man. And then let's see who else we got here. Rest of the younger Smith brother, freestyle.
Oh, yeah. It's and that's probably touching to that. I was kind of even thinking about this yesterday, like being in connection with the Smith family, right? Like, I wrestled Mark, then obviously wrestling Mark and Pat in practice. Mm-hmm. And then my nephew Keegan and my other nephew Zachary wrestling Joe through the youth all the way through, and Keegan and Joe wrestled in high school. And then here's another thing, and I sent a text message to Coach when this happened. This was 2 years ago. My son and Pat's son wrestled in Arkansas. So that Smithmore wrestle-off has been going on for a long time, man. So as Kathy Perry would always tell me, she was like, Hardell, your name comes up a lot around our Thanksgiving dinner conversations.
Yeah. Well, isn't that crazy, though? I mean, the lineage of all these great wrestlers in Oklahoma that we have. I mean, when we're setting these interviews up, it was like not every state can – where you have just a tremendous amount of people to go through. I mean, we'll have content forever with this. I mean, there's so many people that we can, not every state is able to do that, to have a Hardell Moore and a Rod Jones and Steve Schmidt and these guys. I mean, it's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy, and we're still the younger ones. I know we lost a great one in Mickey Martin, and he was just – that was one tough dude, man. You did not want him to do or drill a move on you because he had unbelievable strength. The dude was just awesome, right? He was on our national team and so on and so forth. And, there's a long list of those guys, and we're just fortunate enough to be on that list to have, like you said, a Rod Jones, a Stephen Schmidt, Mark Branch, all these guys that have come from the state of Oklahoma that are around that age. And that's not even including your Dons, your Kennys, your Sheets, there's a whole list of them, your Pats. You can go on. And I know I missed some for sure, but we could talk 3 days just on that.
Well, we got a question. Christina said, she's asking, what was your favorite wrestling style?
Favorite wrestling style? I guess she's meaning freestyle or collegiate would be my guess, right? You know what? It would be freestyle. And I say that because I could be a little bit more creative. Right. Obviously, you get someone up, get the chance to dump them on your head, get for 5 points, whatever the case was back then. And, back in the day, obviously, it was 15 points instead of 10. Mm-hmm. But freestyle was probably, the more I wrestled freestyle, the more I liked it. And then I realized, man, this is helping me out collegiately.
Yep.
So awareness, where you're at on the mat, positioning, like there's so many positive things or attributes that freestyle turned into my collegiate style wrestling. But yeah, I would definitely have to say at the end of my career, freestyle was my favorite for sure.
Cool. Well, I have one more question, then I want to go into something else here. Courtney, who's your favorite person to see at every youth tournament?
I would say Courtney Slover, so she don't knock me upside my head next time she sees me.
Well, so let's talk about, now you're coaching, so let's go right into OWA. I mean, you have that as your club. I mean, I guess you coached Edmond before there, right?
Yeah. So I did the Edmond Generals for 14 years out of the UCO wrestling room, and also used the Edmond North wrestling room, and been doing OWA for the last, I think this is the 8th year going into OWA, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's been fun, man. It's been a journey. It takes a village. I got a lot of people behind the scenes that do a lot of work. I'm not going to say any names because I know I may miss somebody, but everybody knows who I'm talking about, on our board, on our committees, our parents that step up. So I am grateful, extremely grateful for the people that we have behind the scenes that are doing that work. I'm blessed to kind of be the quote unquote face or whatever you want to call it of it. But we got people behind the scenes that do tremendous work to keep everything going, on a straight line and accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish for our young men and young women in this state of Oklahoma. Yeah.
I mean, we've been over there a few times, had some really good practices. I mean, brought some good talent in that room.
Yeah. It's been a journey, man. It's been fun, and being a nonprofit 501c3, just giving back, right? Like wrestling has given me and a lot of the other people that you've had on this call, whether they've wrestled or not, but they're somehow connected to it, right? It's given them so much, and it's our duty, right? It's our duty to give that back to the sport. Will I ever be able to repay wrestling? Nope.
Yeah.
Never will be able to. Would I try my best? Yep, I will. And, that's kind of the motto that I take to it. I'll never be able to repay. Just like I'll never be able to repay my mom or my dad, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm going to try. And that's the same thing I'm doing with this sport. So when the next generation comes through, I want those guys and gals that have the same type of attitude and mentality that we have right now, because that's what's going to help grow the sport, get more kids involved, and, parents understanding different things. So that's the key.
So, well, since we're on that topic, what's going on right now with OKUSA Wrestling? I think we're doing. I mean, it seems like it's just growing.
Yeah, it's growing. You know, I
great.
do this thing, Josh, called little OWA Chronicles on our Facebook page and different things like that. And, you know, we got a lot going on, right? And that's the same thing with OKUSA, right? We got a lot going on. You know, Zach Randall's taking over the tremendous job and leading that. You know, we got Sean Bateman doing his thing as far as the youth board. And we got a lot of people on the youth board that are doing stuff. We got a lot of people on the OKUSA executive board that are doing stuff. And everybody seems to be in sync, right? Hard work. You know, we're marching to the same beat. You know, there's one drum, one beat, and we're all going in that line. And that's the key, right? You know, we got the golf tournament coming up next Saturday, OklahomaUSAWrestling.com. You guys can decide what team you're going to support, right? Obviously, go Pokes. So that's what I'm doing. You got the Broncos, you got the Stars, and you got the Sooners. So, you know, support your club or your team or your university that you want to support. You got the Flyers on there, got an awards banquet on there. So we're marching hand in hand, man. And it's good to see, right? And it's good to see, and it's good to watch our numbers continue to grow. I mean, if Fargo would have took place this year, I feel this would have been one of our bigger Fargos as far as number-wise, right? You know, we had a lot of those kids that were on that schoolboy team becoming cadets this year. You know, do we have all the numbers that PA and Illinois and Jersey have in California? Nope, we don't. But we're tough. You know, we're right there with those states, and that's the beauty. And this year, we got a good crop of young men and young women coming through, and that's awesome to see. You know, being a part of this OKUSA, you know, logo.
Yeah, you know, I've talked to Zach about that, and then Rod and some guys from, I would say, you don't want to leave any age groups out, but definitely from schoolboy to the top of junior, like 17, 18, it's a special group. I mean, they're loaded.
Well, and you bring up a great point, Josh, and I talked to a few folks about this. They are young, but they're seasoned, if that makes sense, right? Like, they've done some wrestling, and they've done some wrestling on a high level. So, you know, this may be their first time going to Fargo, but a lot of these kids have wrestled, whether it's at VA duels, preseason nationals, some of these bigger tournaments. They're seasoned young men and seasoned young women. And when you get that and you find that leader out of that group, it kind of calms a lot of those folks down too, you know, and that's good to see, because you got to have that. You got to learn how to control your emotions as an athlete, because if your emotions get the best of you, you're not going to perform up to your ability. So I'm excited about this crop of kids that we have coming up, and it's going to be fun to get the chance and get hands on a couple of them and fill them out a little bit, get to roll around with them a little bit, and, you know, teach them some things. So when they are fortunate enough to get that, you know, scholarship and become a good student athlete on the next level, wherever it may be, they'll have that mindset of it. And then once again, it'll be their opportunity to pay it forward when they're done.
True. What is your advice to kids right now, young men and women, that, you know, because of COVID right now, everything's up in the air. Is it stay training, keep your mind right? I mean, what is your advice?
So, you know, my advice is I'm a positive guy, right? I'm an extremely positive dude, and you got to continue a positive mindset. And I think with that positive mindset, you got to make sure you're doing something. For the ones that can get into the wrestling room, go get into that wrestling room. And for the ones that can't get in that wrestling room, you can still be creative. This is a time to be creative with your training, right? You know, we all got a front yard, backyard. We all live by a road somewhere or a park somewhere, or whatever the case may be. And is it the full potential training you want to get to? Maybe not, but it's something, right? Something is better than nothing. And you got to be creative. And everybody's being creative right now, whether it's the youth, the junior high, like they all got to do things a little different right now. And, you know, still do something. Just don't sit on your tail and be lazy, because next thing you know, there will be a tournament come up somewhere and you're going to be, oh, I want to go train. And you didn't train the week out, and then you get out there and pull a hammy, you get pinned by somebody that you're not supposed to get pinned by. And, you know, you got to put in that work. You still got to put in that work somehow, some way.
So the last question, what was your most memorable match in college?
That's probably going to be easy. My last home match at Stillwater. And listen, granted, I lost my NCAA match. I got second. Even if, quote unquote, that I would have won that, I still would say the Bedlam match. And I say this because of this. Byron Tucker was a great competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And every time we wrestled, it was always either I was 2, he was 3, or I was 1, he was 2, or whatever the case may be. So out of the 11 times we wrestled 11 times. I won 8, he won 3, but he beat me the first match. Right? He beat me the first match. But the emotions of doing senior night before Bedlam, and then also understanding you got to control those emotions, go back in the back, get ready to wrestle the number 3 ranked dude in the nation, which you guys have gone toe to toe, back and forth, whatever the case may be. And it's the highlight match of the duel. And I gave up 2 early takedowns, which was not like me. So a little bit of nerves was in there. So that was not like me, but I battled all the way back, took it into overtime. And this was back when there was just, you did the 1 minute and then they would do the flip, and whatever color it would turn, that person would go down 30 seconds to escape. Well, I got the choice. I went down, I escaped. And a funny story to that, we did the same thing in Big 12s 2 weeks later. He got the flip, but I was fortunate enough to ride him out. So Bedlam, my last duel, 5,000 fans, Okie State fans going crazy, getting a chance to chant your name. It was something, and to celebrate it with all our seniors that we had, with me, Ben Lee, Steven Schmidt, and some other guys on there. It was just Derek Sanders. It was awesome. It was good.
Well, yeah, Byron was tough. I mean,
Byron was tough, man. Now he's living in Tulsa. He's a root canal specialist, man. So he's up in your neck of the woods out there. But that dude was tough, man. And, our relationship now it's like that. I've always had a good relationship with him. My mom didn't care for him too much back when we were wrestling. You know what I mean? I mean, that, I get that part. But now she's like, she'll hug him and see him whenever we get a chance to see him. But Byron's a good dude, man. Great competitor. He brought the best out of me, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Hardell. Obviously, we have the golf tournament coming up. You can find out more about that on the OKUSA page. If you're watching this, definitely go follow Hardell's group over at the OWA page as well on Facebook. Where else can they find you at?
They can find me we have our Instagram, Oklahoma Wrestling Academy Instagram. I'm Hardell Moore on IG as well. Like you already said, Josh, we got our Facebook with Oklahoma Wrestling Academy there. And then also, everybody, make sure you get on that OKUSA wrestling website, OklahomaUSAWrestling.com. Get signed up for the golf tournament. Go to those GoFundMe pages and find somebody to sponsor. Find a team, find a university. Like I said, you got the Pokes, you got the Sooners, you got the Stars, and you got the Broncos. So, and the reason why all this is for the kids. This is all for the kids, to help lower these costs for Fargo, to get more kids to travel nationally and represent Oklahoma on a high level. So, that's why we're all doing this, man, to give back to these young ones, because soon they're our future. And when they get in our positions, we want them to be doing the same thing for the next group coming up. So that's the big key. Get out there and go donate. Be a part of OKUSA. It's awesome. Josh, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. And it's pinned at the top of our OKUSA page. It's pinned at the very top. We'll have our links there, the GoFundMe link. So again, man, I really do. I appreciate you coming on tonight. I was looking forward to this interview. So it looks like we had quite a few comments here, and we have one here. Thanks, Hardell, for all you do.
Steve, that dude's a beast right there. That's one of the ones that's behind the scenes, man. We got a lot of them. We got a lot of them behind the scenes, so it's good to see that stuff.
And then we have Dusty here.
Dust from Bristow. Another good dude, man. Yeah, my brother used to coach him. I had a chance to coach him in one of his Little League tournaments way back in the day.
And then here's one. Did you ever wrestle Jimmy Arias?
Me and J-Dog, as I call him, we never did wrestle. Now, we were teammates. He was 50, I was 58.
Yep.
Now, we wrestled in the wrestling room, but as far as a live match, me and Jimmy never, as far as competitive match, keeping score, all that stuff, we never got a chance to scrap, man. But Jimmy was a tough dude, man. Had a nice little elbow control, high crotch, man. Dude was slick. Got him an All-American year. His junior year. It's his junior year. I still see him from time to time. Had a chance to see him at Big 12 this past March.
Sweet. We have Gerald. Gerald says, thanks for giving back.
Yeah, Gerald Harris, man. It's he always tells me he looks up to me, man. I'm like, man, you're doing a heck of a job, dude. So it's always good to talk to Gerald, aka the comedian, my man.
He's doing a good job, man. He really is.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks him for giving back. That's awesome.
You bet.
That's all.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you got everybody tuning in tonight. And Hardell, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you, guys. Everybody have a great night.